Hello again, everybody. So you have been given a supernatural gift. No one else has this, let's say. And it is the gift to be able to see into the near-term future. Not too far down. We're talking only just like days and weeks, but it's still a wonderful gift to have for the most part. So let's go back to June 12th of 2025. And you get this vision that tomorrow, on June 13th, Israel is going to pull off this audacious attack of Iran. And they are going to not only take out nuclear facilities, but they are also going to kill nuclear scientists there, some of their military generals. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, what is this going to do now to oil prices and gold and my own investments? Because this is serious stuff. It's being ramped up, but we're not done yet. Then you get the vision right after that. Oh, a week later, the U.S. now joins in the fight on a limited basis, but we're still sending over our own B-2 stealth bombers into the mix. And now you are certain it's time to pare back. Now, we talk a lot about on this podcast about not market timing and trying to figure out which way the market's going and the economy and geopolitical events and all that. So I don't know that, however, with that said, anyone would really blame you if you knew in advance that these things were going to happen. No one would really blame you to say, I think I'm going to pare back. This isn't good. Is this the start of what people fear with World War III? Well. With the benefit of hindsight, we realize that the fear, in terms of at least the financial markets, was misplaced. Let's take a look at the chart right now, and you'll see what I mean when we talk about this particular time frame. There you see the S&P 500 in those early days when Israel first attacked Iran, and you can see the S&P flatlined. It really didn't go down at all. It didn't go up, but it just kind of stood there for about a week. And then when the U.S. got involved, not only did the market not go down, it went up. Look at that. And then kept going up through the July 4th weekend to record highs. Wow. Even seasoned, experienced investors might be surprised when we look back to see how the market did. But it's proof once again, my friends, that you cannot base investment decisions on how you think geopolitical events are going to affect the financial markets. And I'm even talking about regular politics as well, domestic politics. Well, I don't like this guy in the White House, and I can't stand her that sits in the Senate. And that party's in power. I think I might want to revamp my portfolio. It never, ever works. So my hope is by the end of this episode that if you're ever tempted again to use fear of what's happening around the world from a political standpoint or geopolitics, that you will not be tempted to take that to your investment portfolios. And I think over the next few minutes as we spend time together, I will be able to drive that point home to you so you will remember this, hopefully, the next time the inevitable big event happens that grabs all the headlines. So let's go back to the charts here, and I'm going to go way back, like 80 plus years to the beginning of the entry that we had into World War II, which of course we're talking about Pearl Harbor. Look at this long-term chart of the S&P 500 and all of those major geopolitical events that caused just a ton of fear and angst. And justifiably so, by the way, but any correction in the U.S. stock market, do you see any of them? They're just minor blips now, and they get lost in that long trend line. So it's just up and to the right, rinse and repeat no matter what happens in terms of big events around the world. But now let's bring it home. Just regular good old politics. I know that we get all ramped up about stuff, and I'm not trying to get involved here and say that you shouldn't feel this way or that way about politics. We all do. That's fine. Knock yourself out on that and argue with others. But the whole point of this episode is not to take that information and now apply it over to your portfolio. For example, many people I know were a little concerned back in 2016 when a certain man by the name of Donald Trump seemed to surprise a lot of people, certainly a lot of pollsters, and actually won the presidency and went into the White House. You had a lot of folks who used their own personal politics in terms of trying to convince people that this is not going to be good for the economy. It's not going to be good for the financial markets. And by the way, I'm just picking a more recent example. This isn't Republican or Democrat necessarily. We hear this all the time, but a more recent extreme example, I think. And even professional economists who should have known better, but were using their own political leanings to try to make a point and convince people that basically the world is over. Here's proof positive. You may have heard of this guy, Paul Krugman. He is an economist. He's been a college professor. He has been writing columns for the New York Times for a long time. And this is what he warned people before the 2016 election if Trump won. We are very probably looking at a global recession with no end in sight. If the question is when markets will recover, a first pass answer is never. Never? Never is a long time, right? And this guy is a professional economist. Now, he's never tried to hide his liberal leanings at all, just like there are right-leaning economists too. But you see, my point here is, did he do any damage to anyone's portfolio who actually listened to him and said, oh my gosh, Donald Trump just won, I'm out of the market? And as we know, the market soared right after that and kept going higher pretty much right up until COVID. Bad advice. Even a professional is letting his political biases affect decisions being made when it comes to investing, and it never, ever works out. You might be asking, well, Dave, do you ever look at politics at all then when you do your research? Of course I do. Absolutely. I'm a political junkie. However, I look at it more from a legislative standpoint. I don't really look at so much the person or what he or she stands for. I look at kind of the groupthink in Washington or local politics, and I determine, okay, what is being discussed? What will its impact be, not just on the broader economy, but specifically maybe some industries overall? There you can make some decisions about your portfolio. Look, if there's a piece of legislation that might negatively impact this one bit of industry or piece of industry and you're overweighted there, absolutely consider maybe paring back. But doing some sort of wholesale change never, ever, ever works. The way that we think as Americans when we bring politics into investing is very intriguing to me. I want to show one more chart to you, and this really brings it home here. Gallup has been asking for years this question of Americans, basically saying, how do you think the market's going to do the next 6 months? And there you see in the chart, Republicans are represented by the red line, and of course, blue line are the Democrats. They go in a kind of a zigzag fashion, don't they? Really focus on the last 5 years or so when Biden won in 2020. Isn't that something? Look at that red line. Right before the election in 2020, about 80% of Republicans who thought that Trump might win said the market's going to still do great the next 6 months. But as soon as Biden won, boom, it crashed down and didn't stop until 20% thought the market would do well. Think about that. 80% in one party, market's going to do great. That guy won? No way, man. Market's going to do poor. Only 20%. How many of those people then changed their portfolio when it turned out that would have been a bad idea? And back to the chart, the blue line, Democrats, they basically did the same thing, but in an opposite way, right? They started to think the market was going to do well under Joe Biden. Not quite as dramatic as the Republicans there, but still a zigzag line there between the two. Look, there are plenty of things to worry about it as investors. Legitimate things, okay, right? We think about inflation, interest rates, the unemployment rate. What is the Fed going to do? Corporate earnings is a big one. Gas prices. Is there a soft real estate market? Right? We can litany of things to worry about. Even those things, though, however, should not necessarily cause us to make wholesale changes. But definitely when it comes to politics, I can show you one issue after another, like I did in that chart, all of those major geopolitical issues that provided a lot of really fear and worrying, right? But really never had any impact on the up and to the right and up and to the right. So knock yourself out in debating politics with your friends, your co-workers. You'll make some others mad. Maybe that'll make you feel good. Get into conspiracies. Free country. Do whatever you want. Just don't take that to your investment portfolio. My free advice for you this week. You're welcome. All right. Don't forget to hit subscribe. As always, pass this along to friends and family. We'll talk to you again next week.